Marissa was going to be on site in Rancho Cordova, but she had some car trouble, so she is able to call from home, so she won't be able to vote. Anna Pineda is here in person. Eduardo from Region 2 is also here in person. And then we have Rachel, Vienna, Elaine. Alberto Vanuelos is going to be a little bit late today. He says he'll probably be joining in about 9:45. Sandra's on, of course you're on, LaShonda's on, and Corey's on, and we do have quorum. So I think we're ready to start whenever you are.
All right, thank you, John. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our May Project Steering Committee meeting. As John mentioned, we have quorum, and I would like to call this meeting to order. At this time, John, would you be able to do the agenda review for us, please?
Absolutely. We do have just one voting action item, and that's for the minutes, and I'll go over those in a few minutes. I do have a proposal for the PSC. We do have some speakers that are going to be need to move some things around. So agenda item 10, which is the release and policy update, number 10, I would like to move that to informational item and new agenda item number 6, and just move that up in the agenda, if that's okay with the project steering committee, so that our speakers from DHCS can participate in that and provide an update on the continuous coverage unwinding. And I know that we do have some updates on Benefits Cal and the release of information, some late breaking news last week coming out of the JPA board meeting, that I want to share that information with you all. So if we want to move that up to new agenda item number 6 as we go through. And again, lots of sort of debrief. I think one of the exciting things is, since the last time that we met, Wave 3 has gone live. So we're going to debrief on Wave 3, the successes that we've had and where we're at. More importantly, you're going to be hearing from our Wave 3 counties and how things going in the county. I skipped over agenda item 5. We had a conversion last weekend of Wave 4 to do their county prep activities, as well as Wave 3 closed cases. We canceled the Wave 3 closed case conversion. We want to give you an update on that and how we are rescheduling that. And then we always do retrospectives, look back, what are the lessons learned? So we're going to look at the Wave 2. What do we learn from there? How was it applied to Wave 3? And you could see if some of those things have been applied to Wave 3, and we're going to be doing that each and every one of the waves. And that is what of our future wave readiness, because Wave 4 is just around the corner. And then we'll do some of our standard updates from Benefits Cal, technical operations. We're going to look at our service level agreements and how the system has been performing, give you a procurement update, and then some of our standard updates. So again, Winna, another full agenda, but I think we have sufficient time to cover the topics.
All right, thank you, John. At this time, we would like to give the public an opportunity to speak on any items that are not on the agenda. As a reminder, public comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per speaker, except if you are using a translator, and you'll be allowed up to 6 minutes. I'm not seeing any hands, John.
Either am I, Winna.
Okay, and then just a reminder to unmute when connected via your computer using the icon, and when you're using the phone, please press *6.
Thanks, Winna. I think I'll move us to our voting action item, and that is the minutes from our April 20th meeting. Did have a couple of open action items to receive updates on today. The first one is action item 3, report back on address change job aids available in the LMS. Lisa, are you out there?
Yes, John, I'm here. Job aids are available in online help as well as in the LMS. With report a change, it comes across as that task is the process and the job aids for there's 2 of them that are in the LMS. And then in the self-service application job aid, there'll be a added that talks specifically about the new tasks that come across for report a change. So yes,
Lisa, you're breaking up. Now you're on mute, Lisa.
Did you hear any of my update? I'm back. I got booted out, sorry.
Okay. Just quickly, that you said that it is available as a job aid and in LMS, and then
Yes.
it sort of cut out there. All right. When Lisa comes back, hopefully she'll be back for the policy update. I believe both those job aids are available both online and in LMS. And if we need to send out links to the county, we will go forth and do that.
That's correct, John.
Okay. Thank you so much. So we will close that action item unless there's any objections from our PSC members. Okay, Rachel Fry, action item number 4.
Get off mute. Yes, John, action item number 4 for the creation of the fact sheet tied to the document upload. We have created a version of the fact sheet. We're sending it out tomorrow is when it's going to be going out to the counties. The one thing that we wanted to include is there will be a future change that's going to be introduced to Benefits Cal that will reduce this effort from, or the instance from happening in production. So we wanted to make sure that that was included, and we're working on the date to include in the fact sheet.
Okay, so Rachel, that sounds great. So we'll get the fact sheet out. Isn't that also something that needs to go to CBOs so that CBOs and the public understand that they can't upload encrypted documents? So what's the communication channel that you're using to inform CBOs and the public about encrypted documents?
Yeah, John, we will be working with our advocate co-leads who help us with getting communications out to the CBO community to share the information about it's both encrypted documents as well as documents that are password protected. So we found it happened in both instances. So we'll be working with our advocate co-leads on getting that communication out.
Okay, and then I assume that it will also go into the every other month sort of education sessions that the team is having as well?
Until such time that the change is introduced into Benefits Cal, yes, it will get mentioned on that call return.
All right, thank you, Rachel. And unless there's objections, we will close that out. And acknowledging your comment in chat, Jen, thank you for that. All right, Lisa, if you're there, action item number 5.
Yes, I am here, John. Sorry, been booted out a couple of times already. So this action item, we have logged an SCRCA 261787 to start tracking the analysis that we're doing around address updates. As we talked at the last meeting, currently address updates, they come in as a task, and the request was, is there a way to automatically update the system with those addresses? So there are a few use cases we need to look at. So where there is an update that comes in and the address has been normalized, so it's a valid address, and the address is within the same county, we're looking at that as one use case. as a potential to automate the update. The second use case is where we need to look at continuing the current process, which is, often our customers move between counties. So if they provide a new address that is in a different county, that does need to trigger out the ICT processing between counties. So we're still at the stage of investigating different use cases. And as I said, we do have that work item that we have logged, and that will be used to do the analysis and then the future prioritization of this item. Back to you, John.
Thank you so much. So the communication mechanism on that, Lisa, once all of that's together, we will it be through a CIT or just back through normal channels? What are you proposing on that?
Normal channels, John.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And with that, Winna, that closes out the review of the action items, and the minutes are open for PSC consideration.
All right. So John, I'll move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Very good. Is there a second?
Region 3 will second.
All right. I got Anna here in the room that did a second, and then I'll go through. Clarissa, I know you can't vote. Any comments?
No comments from me. Thanks, John.
Thank you so much. Eduardo? I approve. Excellent. Rachel?
I approve.
Thank you. Vienna?
I approve.
Thank you. Elaine?
Yes, approved.
Thank you. Sandra?
I approve.
Thank you. LaShonda?
I approve.
Thank you. And Corey?
I approve.
Thank you so much. Motion passes. And that brings us to informational and agenda item number 5, and I'll turn it over to Arnold. Arnold, you out there?
Yes, I am. Just doing a
Very
sound
good.
check. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Able to hear you and see you. All good.
All right, excellent. So first off, I just want to say congratulations to our Wave 4 counties for coming on. And we completed our A conversion over the past weekend to where we were able to bring in their office and worker information and units. So that was successful. We did have an issue with our Wave 3C. 3C was the conversion of closed cases greater than 2 years old. And what we saw is during the actual conversion event, we were falling short of our expected number of eligibility determination records. And as a result, as we were going through that in the RCA, we've determined that we would have had to reset the process, which would have resulted in a delay in coming up on Monday morning. So with that, we made the determination with the consortium to delay the 3C and focus on 4A. So that is when we stopped the work on the 3C last weekend. So since that weekend, we have determined our root cause, and that was a operational procedure error around the fact that the code set that was used to execute successfully in the mock conversion did not fully get promoted into the production environment. So we were missing the correct code components for a subset of that conversion process, which led to the miss on those eligibility determination records. We have implemented additional steps within that process, as well as additional steps within the conversion process to identify that we have all the records earlier. We also have worked to reschedule the 3C event to this upcoming weekend. And in addition—
Arnold, we lost sound.
When we're able to hear him quite well, so it might be your network. Can you hear me, Winna?
Yes, I can hear you, John.
Okay, when are you able to hear me?
Now I can, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So where we ended up is we are going to implement 3C this upcoming weekend. And in addition, there was the CalSAWS 2305 release that was scheduled to go this weekend. That will now go on May 28th, so a week from Sunday. So our next steps are we ran the 3C internal in our lower environment so that we were able to validate the conversion process and that we had the correct code set, all the data, and that we were also confirming our final timings. And we are also confirming that we have validated all code components that have been migrated correctly in preparation for this weekend's activities. So if we move on to the next slide. At this point, we can, John, do you want us to transition into the debrief, or should we?
No, that would be the end of that agenda item. So we're going to turn it over for questions and comment. Just to summarize, as Arnold did, unfortunately, it was a manual error and sort of a code migration error. The good thing about that is it's easy to fix, and there's some additional quality checks that have been put in place, and we're assured that those have been put in place, and it will run this coming weekend to be able to come up and be able to do that. So we expect that we will remedy that. There will be, again, in another conversion this coming up weekend for Wave 3. We've been talking with Wave 3 counties about the impact. They're waiting for that data for some of their cases to be able to process. We've had great patience and been working really well with our Wave 3 counties, and they're looking forward to getting their cases this coming weekend. This particular issue should not happen as we go forward. Again, with any conversion, they're going to have the every couple hours communications, be working through those items, and we'll be going into conversion weekend. Another thing that we'll be talking about in a few minutes when we talk about the release of information on Friday, based on feedback from the JPA board or state stakeholders in the public meeting, we have decided to put a hold on the release of information functionality going in 2305. We have to turn off that code so that it is not usable. And as that release goes forward, yesterday we greenlit that release with that turnoff, and we're going to be able to, that little bit of extra time has us both on Benefits Cal and CalSAWS being able to turn off that code in a regression test to make sure it doesn't have any adverse impact. So that release is getting moved over to the Memorial Day weekend to be able to go forth with that. So it seems like this has sort of worked its way out with some of the decisions that have been made. So just sort of tying those two things together, there was a communication that did go out to counties yesterday, sort of explaining that background and timing. We know that that is an impact to our production counties because our production counties are using a lot of Saturdays to be able to catch up on work, process, do things, and that is not lost on us, and we do apologize for that inconvenience. So I just wanted to summarize that winner and then turn it over to you to see if there's any PSC questions and then public comment.
Great. Thank you, John. Are there any questions from the PSC?
Hi, Winna. I have a question. This is Sandra Bolin from Riverside. Is there a way, and I understand that this, the issue that occurred is being fixed, but is there a way to get a listing of future dates when the system will be impacted or will be down for the weekends? Because for Riverside County, we are also looking at potentially using some Saturdays to open to the public. And in order for us to make those decisions, we need to know when the system will be available. And right now it seems we get the information a little closer to the date, but is there a way to get some future dates into maybe the summertime to be able to make some of those decisions?
Sandra, absolutely. We can get a calendar out there on our conversion weekends, as well as our release weekends, and an estimated downtime, just so you can estimate and do some planning. We know that specific times are going to have to be sort of dialed in on that, depending on some of our performance tests and things like that. But we can either bring back out or provide a centralized calendar for the counties for planning. So we will take that action item and make sure that that gets out prior to the next PSC.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Sandra. Are there any other questions from the PSC?
Hey, this is Rachel from Region 3. I thank you, Sandra, for asking that, because I know that our county in particular, we consistently do overtime projects on Saturdays. So it would be really helpful if we could plan long-term, especially with the continuous coverage unwinding. We anticipate that need to be greater. But I would also like to comment that I fully support the decision that was made to stop that particular part of the conversion to avoid having the system down later on Monday. So thank you very much for making that decision, because I think that would have impacted many more people.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel, for that comment. That's always a balancing act that we have to do as we look at that. I said, hey, we could restart this. We figured out what it was, but not having the system available to all of our production counties, our 48 counties, for a half a day on Monday seemed to be too great of an impact. And there really wasn't any guarantees at that point in time. So thank you for acknowledging that. That was a hard decision, but one that we did come to consensus on.
Hi, Winna, Elaine Martinez.
Hi, Elaine.
Hi, I want to echo the comments made by Sandra and Rachel. I know these were tough decisions to make, and yes, any information we could be provided for planning would help us. Teams are very eager to use the system, and with all the work they have to try to plan for some of these overtime events. So thank you so much for all the communication. I know it was consistent, and we were a little unsure exactly what was going on, but the emails were very thorough. So we consulted with each other, and then very much understood what was happening. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Elaine.
Thank you.
And thanks you and your team for your patience as we went through that and are going through that.
All right. Are there any additional questions or comments from PSC? Seeing none. I don't see any hands raised. Are there any comments or questions from the public? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and we will move to our next agenda item, which was item 10 that got moved up to item 6.
Good morning.
Winna.
All right, Teresa,
Go
are
ahead,
you out
Lisa.
there? Yeah, Teresa, are you on?
I am on. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So going to start with just some updates on the continuous coverage unwinding. Want to share that, and I know we've shared with this before, but DHCS is doing some data reporting that is going to be publicly available. We're calling it our data dashboard. It's really important, and we know that everyone has a vested interest to see where California is at in regards to successful renewal processing, individuals transitioning over to covered California, individuals becoming discontinued from Medi-Cal. There's just a lot of interest in where California is at during the unwinding. And so this dashboard will be posted monthly to our DHCS website that'll provide both county and statewide level data. And that data is going to include things like the total Medi-Cal enrollment, applications, redeterminations, and discontinuances. For the most part, the data that's contained in that dashboard is data that we're receiving directly from the SAWS to make sure that it is the most current and accurate data. The only data that we derive from different areas, one is the total Medi-Cal enrollment. That is data that we gather directly from Meds, since Meds is the system of record when it comes to Medi-Cal. And there are Medi-Cal members that are outside of those that are case managed by our local county offices. And then the second area is we've got some statistics on state hearings. And so that information is provided by the state as well. The data dashboard will be placed on our Medi-Cal eligibility statistics page, and on the materials that is actually hyperlinked so that it brings you directly to where that information can be found. Right now, there's already some baseline data that we submitted to CMS in regards to where California is at. We expect that the very first dashboard that's going to be released will occur at the end of May or potentially the beginning of June. And that will be for the month of eligibility of March. So that really kind of level sets where we were at before we get into the unwinding that begins. If we go to the next slide, we wanted to share some additional information about some other things that potentially there may be some traffic that our local counties see, and that has to do with some modifications to our outreach campaign. And so, as many of you know, we have partnered with vendor GMMB to provide a very extensive outreach campaign for California with the intent of really spreading the word about annual renewal processing. One of the things that we did as part of that outreach campaign is the development of the keepmedicalcoverage.org webpage. This web page is really designed to bring as much traffic as possible to this particular page, because over time it will continue to have information added that will hopefully answer a lot of questions for our Medi-Cal members. It can be used for our Medi-Cal members themselves, or even some of our partner organizations that are working with our Medi-Cal members can use the site together to really make sure that individuals have the information that they need. We recently redid this page to be more user-friendly. And now when you find yourself on the landing page, it is set up for the Medi-Cal member to have 4 different options to choose from, including update my information, which gives them instructions on how they can update contact information if it's changed, or other information, with links of how to directly go to Benefits Cal so that they can create that online account or access their online account to make those changes. There's another section where they can click if they've gotten their renewal form. That includes some how-to videos for completing the renewal on Benefits Cal and My Benefits Cal Win. In the future, it'll also include some videos about what that journey will look like for the Medi-Cal member for the renewal, and some frequently asked questions that will hopefully provide some good answers for our Medi-Cal members that might have questions about how to complete the renewal. There's also sections on I'm no longer covered and what the transition will look like for them to cover California. And then also, if they're already been renewed, what sort of actions they should be aware of. Starting at the beginning of the month, DHCS did begin our emailing and texting campaign. And so it's really important to kind of understand who is being emailed and texted directly from DHCS. We know that SAWS is also sending text messages, and our managed care plans are going to be sending text messages. So we just want to make sure, as we're all reaching out to the Medi-Cal members, that those messages are complementary to each other, as opposed to confusing our Medi-Cal members with the volume of information they're receiving. So from DHCS, the only time they are going to receive email or text messages from DHCS is, one, if they've signed themselves up to receive email and text directly on our DHCS webpage. They'll receive email and text that are more general in nature, talking about, the different resources that are available, that renewals have begun. It is not case specific. The only time DHCS is going to be sending us case specific text message or email is when an individual actually has an annual renewal that is due. We are using data that is provided by SAWS, and we are only outreaching to those that did not have a successful ex parte redetermination and were physically mailed out a packet. They'll receive a single email or text message from DHCS, just reminding them that a renewal was mailed out, that they should have received it, and that it's really important for them to complete that. A copy of the email messages were sent out as well as the schedule for the May email and text campaign were sent out to our individuals that are signed up for the DHCS county support calls. So they should have that information as well. And just one last thing, we know that DHCS is got a waiver to no longer look at assets during the unwinding period in anticipation of our January 1st elimination of assets. And so just sharing that we're doing some targeted outreach materials. One of them is going in the JVR packet that is sent to our Medi-Cal members that just basically lets people know, hey, if you don't have your asset information, don't worry about it. You don't need to send that into the counties during the unwinding. And that's the updates for DHCS on continuous coverage unwinding. And so Lisa, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Teresa. So the next couple of slides, we just wanted to focus on where we're at with the June renewals and the July renewals from an automation perspective. So for our June renewals, back in April, beginning of April, for our 45 production counties, we initiated the ex parte process. So that ran for several days. And then in the middle of April, for those individuals who did not go through the no-touch process, we generated the renewal packets. And so we generated both the Magi, the mixed Magi, as well as generating the non-Magi packets for our Medi-Cal recipients with June renewals. Just last week, end of last week, we sent out the first of 2 reminder notices to those individuals who received those renewal packets. So in May, on the 12th, we actually generated those reminder notices for all 48 production counties. So for our 3 Wave 3 counties, their packets were sent out of CalWin. Migration then occurred now in CalSource. So we did pick up any June renewals for our 3 new counties and send out that first reminder notice as well. Next steps here will be a second reminder notice at the end of the month, and then we continue into June, which will be the first time we turn back on those discontinuance processes effective for July 1. Next slide. For July renewals, so the process starts in May. So our first month here is May. So just like with June, we've gone through 2 processes to date. One, the ex parte process for those that did not complete no touch. We also generated packets. And again, that was for all 48 production counties. We generated Magi, mixed Magi, and non-Magi packets. And so they have been sent across to Central Print last week and are out and hopefully being received by individuals. So again, they're in the yellow envelope. So we have begun our July renewals there as well. And then as we head into June, we'll start doing those reminder notices. So as we continue forward, we're going to have obviously multiple renewal cycles in flight that we continue to monitor. We also, as we bring on our future waves 4, 5, and 6, we continue to work very closely with our CalWin partners to confirm documents that are being sent out from CalWin prior to cutover, so that we pick up and continue that automation processing for any subsequent renewal processing periods there for each wave. Next slide, please. From a communication standpoint, we just wanted to highlight here some of the information that has gone out to the counties. We've sent it CIT, I think back in March, around Medi-Cal reports that are in CalSource. In addition, 2 recent fact sheets have gone out, one that is focused on the key dates. So as you saw in those 2 slides, we focus on some of those key automation processes and when they run. So we put together the fact sheet to go out so the counties have those dates for all upcoming renewal cycles during the unwinding. Also, just yesterday it went out, was a fact sheet on discontinuances. We know it has been several years since those have run, so we wanted to provide additional information about the process and criteria and what will get picked up and processed once we turn the discontinuances back on. We also sent out a CIT, and I'm going to talk a little bit about text messaging. You heard from Teresa talk about some of the DHCS campaigns. We sent out a CIT that outlines some of the changes that we have made and will continue to make around text messaging. So it listed out a number of future SCRs that we're working on there. And then when we look at communications that are in the works, we are doing an additional fact sheet on text messaging that will explain to the counties the campaigns that are in the system, kind of what triggers those campaigns, when they run, how often they run, and the targeted programs and populations for those campaigns. So that's something that we're actively working on and we'll provide out. We'll also include in there's a couple of a system report where you can see what messages have gone out to customers. And then one other exciting thing in process is, I think last month we talked about the virtual assistant. We have been working with Teresa and her team to review all the county questions that have come in. I know there's a Meadle that has a very detailed fact sheet, so we're taking some of the most frequently asked questions and responses there and loading them into the worker-facing virtual assistant. So as folks are navigating through the system, they can click on that icon and ask a question there. So this is something that will continue to evolve as the months move on and look to add additional content. And we're definitely focusing on some of the Medi-Cal contact given the importance of the unwinding. Next slide. Okay, so on text messaging, so since we last met, I did want to let you all know that we, in conjunction with DHCS and CDSS, we've gone ahead and executed a first opt-in data change. So in alignment with the FCC clarification that we've talked about previously, an agreement from the departments. We executed a data change back on May 7th to opt in both pending and active primary applicants on Medi-Cal and CalWORKs only at this point. So in the system today, the opt-in is at the person phone number level. We scoped in only those primary applicants on Medi-Cal and CalWORKs, as CDSS is still pending research and analysis on CalFresh only households, CAPI households, as well as some of the other programs on the CDSS side. So what that means is we went through and we now have close to 5 million active and pending primary applicants opted into text messages. So if a primary applicant is on, Medi-Cal and CalFresh, where we have text campaigns that might be for appointments, for example, they will get appointment reminders for CalFresh. So, but if they're only on CalFresh, we have not opted them in at this time unless they were self-opted in, and that's already in the system. The little icons down there in the right give you an indication of, our percentages of people now opted in for those programs. With this data change, we did add a journal entry. So that is assigned to the cases where the change was successful and the opt-in occurred. For anyone who was already opted out through self-opting out or undeliverable messages, that was preserved in the system. Next slide. So a couple of things, just a reminder here, as our new counties come on in waves 4 through 6, we will be running this process for those counties again to opt in individuals. If we have new information from CDSS, we'll also be running any additional changes for all counties in the system. We also have some online page changes we'd like to make regarding the opt-in process. We did have that all ready to go at the end of this month. However, we are unable to continue at this point until we get clear direction and clarification from CDSS. So we're actively working with them on that. Depending on the results, we may need to go back and redesign the changes in order to effectively implement the direction and policy we receive. We will be continuing to also look at additional text campaigns. I know one of the key ones that has been requested is around the no-touch process. And when that is completed is sending a text to those individuals who went through no touch. So that is something that we have received and we are working through the analysis on and look to queue up to put in the system as soon as possible here. And I think that was the last slide on texting, and we have a few more to go. All right, so switching to our releases, bi-monthly, every other month releases, as well as our priority releases. A couple things to note here. In May, earlier this month, we did complete the final run of our CalFresh emergency allotment. It has been a process we've run every month for the last 3 years to make sure that our CalFresh households receive the maximum allotment for the household size. In total, for our former C4 counties, LA County, and then as the waves have come on, we've issued over 8.3 billion, I believe, in benefits to our CalFresh households, over 43 million issuances. And I know that CalWin has issued something in excess of 5 million as well to their CalFresh households and the residents in our county. So big thank you to all the teams involved there. It has been a process that has run well, and we were happy to support the counties and CDSS in this initiative. For our release 2305, as you heard from John and Arnold earlier, this has been shifted out by 1 week. We did receive green light yesterday. As John mentioned, we are regression testing changes to remove ROI code. Remove is an interesting word for CalSource. This means that we will be deploying the code, but it will be dormant and not active for the county. So part of that ROI change was to add new pages to capture ROI information. We will be deploying the pages. However, the security that allows your workers to access those pages will not be deployed, so no one will be able to get to those pages. So we're spending the better part of this week regression testing that functionality is in fact turned off and ready for deployment Sunday after next. As we head into June and July, our summer months, we will fill out this chart with additional priority items. We do have our July release. And all of these activities will be worked in with our migration waves. Next slide, please. All right, I think one last update here. We have been supporting the counties and CDSS as they work through disaster CalFresh processing. So back in February, as you all remember, the extreme weather we had and the flooding that impacted many counties across the state, we continue to work through the disaster CalFresh. We had 11 counties who recently completed or are in process of administering disaster CalFresh. First 2 waves are complete there. We are supporting our 3 counties, Madera, Mendocino, and Mono County, who are in wave 3, who are working through the application processing period this week. And so we will continue to support and provide any assistance there as needed. And I believe the next slide we're going to, I think Karen is actually coming to give an update.
Thanks, Lisa. As John and Lisa both mentioned, for release of information on that update, most of it's already been covered, but just to kind of run through it, the project had finished the design and the development, expecting to be able to deliver this the ROI functionality in this upcoming release. And this was done, you might recall that this was done before final policy was received. We try really hard not to implement policy and finish the design until final policy is received. And this was done outside of that. It was based on some of the ARPA funding. And so driven by that funding and the timing and, trying to get this policy moving forward, it was some decisions that were made along the way. And as we got to the end of this and getting ready for it to roll out, the DHCS had just finished their policy that day, I think, and CDSS had released theirs a little bit before that at the beginning of this month. And so with those policies just coming out, there is, some the counties brought up some concerns about the clarity of the policy and then how that affects the implementation. And so we, as Lisa mentioned, while it's being released, the security won't allow it to be able to be turned on. And so folks will not see that that functionality when the release goes live. For our next steps, we are putting together a work group to be able to look at the policy, make sure that CDSS, DHCS, if there's any gaps in those policies, make sure that we get a common understanding so that when we move forward, it works, consistently, and also taking a look at what the operational impacts might be and how to resolve those. So we'll be working with the counties, we'll be working with stakeholders to be able to work through that process and make updates to be consistent with the policy and be able to address those operational items as we move forward. On the next slide, this was in here from the what we shared at the JPA. This is just a recap of what we did in order to prepare for, from a testing perspective, to get ready for ROI, and then also the outreach and the demos, the demo that was done, and then the job aids and that sort of thing, which for right now, those will just wait, and we'll do an update on the job aid if anything changes, as well as make any updates to the functional presentations as we move forward. So much more to come on this, and we'll be working to get the work group going in short order so we can continue to make ROI workable for stakeholders as well as counties and move forward. And that's what I have on this one. Am I turning over to Owner, or are we?
Yes, Karen, I will take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Owner.
As Karen summarized it pretty well, this is also what we have shared in the JPA meeting last week in terms of the core updates and activities have been conducted earlier during the design, development, and the validation standpoint. And in addition to the county validations, we had all the stakeholders, including the state partners and the advocates, has validated that. But as John and Karen highlighted pretty well, due to the concerns that has been raised during the public meeting last week, around the clarity and operability of the policy, the ROI has been postponed. And as Karen mentioned, both CalSAS and the BeneFiscal teams will proceed forward for the upcoming releases with ROI changes turned off. And we will be working with the stakeholders and the work groups to complete the next steps to make it again available for stakeholders and the customers. So this was basically the summary that we shared last week during the JPA meeting as well. But as Karen mentioned, it is currently turned off, and for the releases standpoint, the 2305 was the original date, but we will not be deploying that to production with this functionality at the moment. John, is there anything that you want to add?
Let's go to our next slide.
That's basically the last
Okay.
one.
I think that sort of wraps it up, and we will turn it back to Winna for PSC and then public comment.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from PSC? Sandra, I see your hand.
Hi, I wanted to just add for Karen, I know you mentioned that you'll be putting a work group together and I appreciate that. If there's a possibility, Riverside County would really like to be a part of that.
Thank you. We'll take that back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. I know that there's a lot of folks that want to be involved. We're going to be working with our partners. You know, since this just came up last Friday to put on hold, you know, that there's a number of folks that want to be put on the work group. How is the work group going to run? What topics are going to be taken care of? I think a lot of these things are policy and operational items that may drive additional changes to the ROI functionality in both Benefits Cal and possibly Cal SAWS on the back end. So we're sort of working through what is that scope, what is the membership, when will it kick off? But acknowledge, Sandra, and appreciate wanting to be involved in that, Riverside County.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Are there any other questions or comments from PSC? Seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the public?
Hi, this is Jennifer from the Advocates Group. I just want to confirm that the advocates will be invited to the work group as well.
Correct, Jennifer. We will be reaching out as this comes together for advocate involvement in the work group.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Jen. Are there any other questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and we'll move on to our next item, which is the Wave 3 Go Live debrief.
Yeah, after all that, can you believe that we had counties that went live too? So we're going to hear from our project team, our executives from Accenture and Deloitte from the project perspective as we've gone through. And then once that context is set, we're going to hear from Santa Barbara, Ventura, and Orange County from their leadership on how things are going and spend some time on that. So Arnold, is it going to be you or Leslie that's going to kick off on this?
I am going to go ahead and introduce Leslie Pevney, who is our conversion lead for the remainder of the conversions, and let her walk us through the 3B.
Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to say that 3B was successful and came up ahead of schedule. Our Wave 3 counties added 1.2 million cases to the Cal SAWS production environment. That is 2.7 million programs, 2.5 million persons, and we added over 23,000 county users. From a conversion perspective, we added 4.2 billion rows of data to the Cal SAWS database. That cutover not only was conversion related to the people and the cases, but also a migration of contact center and imaging. All systems have been stable with these Wave 3 counties, with our hitting our final new record of 20,000 county workers across the 48 production counties. I'm going to hand it over to Onar and Rachel to talk about Benefits Cal.
Make it off of mute and off of video, Leslie, or onto video rather. While we have a number of numbers here represented, I wanted to maybe just put this in a little bit of context for what we're seeing with Wave 3. Well, we had, north of 37,000 accounts that have been created till date, which we're in now week 3.5, I guess we're just about there. We're sitting at about 28% of individuals that had My BCW accounts that have already created accounts in Benefits Cal. Relatively speaking to the previous 2 waves, we're a little ahead of schedule. So in the first 3 weeks, we've got a pretty good adoption, at least in terms that of individuals that have created accounts. We're on par with waves 1 and 2 in terms of what we saw for documents that have been submitted and applications that have been submitted. When I checked this morning on periodic reports and renewals, in the periodic reports, about 45% of the periodic reports that are available on Benefits Cal to be submitted by customers have been submitted to date, which is, is a great uptick and increase in adoption on that front. And we're running at about 22% for renewals across all programs that are available and have been submitted through Benefits Cal today. And then lastly, we've added now north of 500 CBOs with our Wave 3 rollout that are tied specifically to the counties in Wave 3, which brings us just shy of 5,000 total CBOs that have accounts right now in Benefits Cal. I believe we're gonna, if you could go to the next slide now, please. I wanted to turn it back. Thank you.
Yeah, Rachel, thank you so much. And now we really want to just have a conversation and hear from our counties. I'm going to switch it up a little bit from what we did at JPA, and I'm going to start with Santa Barbara and Maria Gardner, our primary point of contact from Santa Barbara County, to see if she wants to share some insights on the migration and how it's going. Maria, are you out there? All right. I will also, if Maria isn't out there as of yet, I'll switch it over to our own PSC member from Ventura County, Elaine Martinez, to provide an update. Go ahead, Elaine.
Thank you, John. Okay, so in terms of our go live, our team is doing really good. We're nearing the end of week 4. Some of our highlights include that the staff are feeling that the system's really easy to navigate. We did some good preparation under the advisement of the project to have a really good escalation process, so that has helped people feel secure as they're learning. Our morale is really high during this time of change, so we're happy about that. We're getting some good feedback from our staff also in terms of what they need, and we're able to provide that. And we're feeling very comforted that we're going to continue to have support from the project for a little bit of time moving forward. Some of the challenging points as we move through this change were the amount of pre-work that needed to be done and multiple meetings and things like that. But we're learning through the security challenges, and that, as the project had said, those were some things that we could expect. So there were many things we were prepared for, and we found ourselves going, oh yeah, that was going to happen. That did happen. So that was helpful to us. We're looking forward to maximizing the system in terms of its opportunities and the kiosks, and also Benefits Cal, and then also the automation opportunities that we will have in the future. So so far our team's doing pretty good. Appreciate all the updates and support from the project. Very happy with the support of our regional managers and who have been there with us through this. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Elaine. Appreciate the update. Now I'm going to switch it over to the Chief Deputy Director in Orange County, Veronica Rodriguez, who used to be the director in Imperial County and has been a former longtime employee in San Bernardino County. So she has seen SAWS through the eyes of various counties and now in Orange County. So Veronica, can you give us an update?
Yes, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, John. I wanted to just take an opportunity to just congratulate the project staff on the CalWIN transition for Wave 3. It's been incredibly amazing, to be honest with you. Not to say that there hasn't been any functionality issues, but I also experienced the C4 transition, which had a little bit more hiccups. So I want to just congratulate everybody. As far as Orange County, I do want to state a little bit, and I did bring my subject matter expert with me, but we really focused on training and prepping for the go live. So if you want lessons learned, for us, training is critical. In Orange County, we had instructor-led training, web-based training, and then we also augmented and utilized our internal training staff to augment the project instructors. We just wanted our staff to be prepared. staff right now are excited. They are still excited, and we're jumping into week 4. They're still excited about CalSAUS, and they are finding that a lot of the activities they are doing much. Some of the tasks are much faster than they used to in CalWin, and slowly but surely we're getting there. The other thing I just want to share with the other counties is that you need to prep in regards to your staffing and your overtime as you're ramping up. As we know, we have a lot of work that we still have to do at the same time in prepping for the transition. So just allocate staff, make sure that you are taking in consideration that overtime needs in order to have an effective transition over. One last thing before I jump over into our central control model. We did implement a moratorium on vacations 60 days prior to go live through 30 days after, just to help us being able to manage the existing workload and the needs of prepping for going live into CalSAUS. But I wanted to turn it over really quick without taking too much of your time. Our central control operations was very, we had a great model. We had a great manager that helped lead this, but I want to turn it over to Tim, who's on the line, Tim Evinger, and he'll talk to you a little bit about our central control model and how we are responding to coaching and escalation requests and how we're doing with that. Tim?
Yeah, thank you, Veronica. Good morning, everyone. Just want to talk a little bit about our command structure, and we utilized incident command-based structure that many of you are familiar with, the ICS or NIMS model, and modified that to really be able to speak social services language as well. You know, and what that came with was predefined roles. It came with representatives from all programs to be able to communicate up, down, and then across all divisions. This happened with daily report outs, and really had a similarly structured command center at each region, so that there was communication widely across the organization. I think that one of the things that worked really well was that we had an escalation plan that was really phenomenal, which we created a Microsoft Forms where a staff member could ask for assistance virtually, and then basically it was like a dispatch with a trouble ticket system where we could dispatch somebody to them. They could put a mini orange traffic cone on top of their cubicle or office space, and we could also have that on-site assistance. I would say that the project has been excellent in being responsive in providing on-site support. Thank you to the other counties who have also assisted in this. I think that it went incredibly smooth in using this model, and you know, we prepared documents each day, including an event action plan where we could show where everybody was assigned, including the coaches from out of town, project staff, and then of course internal. And publishing that every day just gave everybody a clear picture of what is occurring each and every day and each and every hour, and what everybody's role was. So I think that the other piece of that command structure that was super successful was that we had a communications team, and that communications team was able to take information that comes from the project, which were fact sheets, but then also some tips and tricks, and so that we weren't repeating the same thing over and over and getting the same issues that were already resolved or have workarounds, that we were able to push that out. We have an intranet site that's live that people can go and get information, and we're starting to push them onto the CalSAUS help area. But during this go live event, we're utilizing this intranet and continual messages so that we have, again, very clear and wide communication. So those are really the things that helped on the escalation. Again, somebody could get virtual or in-person help. That goes to our trouble ticket team. If they can't, if the coaches can't resolve it, to the trouble ticket. If we can't resolve it, to the project. So really a triage and a layered system that has run very smoothly. But that the other success of that really also is that we tested all those systems, that we did a mock go live a couple weeks prior to go live, tested the systems, the Teams channels, the intranet, tested the communication. We had some mock situations that we needed to escalate, and we tested all of that out. And I really think that it went very smooth. And as Veronica mentioned, yeah, we have a few conversion issues that we're still working through. We have some configuration that we're still doing. But again, as Veronica said, we have some processing times that are back to CalWIN and even better than some CalWIN times in some areas. So with that, I'll turn it back.
Thank you, Tim. Just one last thing that I think it's exciting to share, especially for our CalWIN partners. One of the things that I was excited about is just to see that many of the issues and many of the tickets initially are dissipating, right? A lot of it has been navigation. The very first week is a lot of role assignment and navigation. So there's a lot of those tickets that they're able to manage. What was really exciting for me, and I think it was different from my prior experiences, not only going on, into C4, but also getting the upgrade of C4 and then transitioning over to CalSAUS, and this was the fact that staff are mitigating those tickets through this central command. They're mitigating the tickets at the county level, and more tickets are being mitigated at the county level, meaning that the functionality of the system is working. So it's a very small percentage of tickets that are actually being escalated to the project to handle. And then the other piece of this is also that a lot of the fixes, there have been prompt responses to the fixes out by the project. So again, I want to say kudos. I've seen it happen since back in 2004, I think it was, and it's just getting better and better. So stay excited, keep your staff excited. Our line staff are excited, even though we're all the way into the fourth week, they're still excited about learning the system, navigating the system. And so keep on doing the good work and get excited. If you're excited, I guarantee you, your staff will be excited as well. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, Tim. Just great, valuable information. And as you can see, partnership. It's been fantastic. I wanted to check one more time to see if there's anybody that wants to give an update from Santa Barbara. Do you have anybody? I know at JPA, the Santa Barbara update was very consistent with what Elaine provided in Ventura and Veronica and Tim provided for Orange County. So with that, Winna, I'll turn it back to you to see if there's PSC questions, comments, and then public comment.
Thank you, John. Are there any questions or comments from the PSC?
Hi, Winna, it's Clarissa. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I see. Go ahead, Clarissa, and then we're going to go to you, Anna.
Okay, just quick question. But first, I want to comment. Thank you so much for the counties who shared their experience. That's very helpful for all of us who are still waiting to go live in the upcoming waves. Just a quick question on Orange County. It was mentioned that they put a moratorium 60 days prior to go live and 30 days past go live. Was that a vacation moratorium or moratorium on telework and flexible schedule?
So thank you for the question. And I'm sorry, I should have touched on that. It was a vacation moratorium and a flex schedule moratorium.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Clarissa. We'll go ahead and we'll move on to Anna.
I can speak.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Winna, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So this is Anna from San Francisco. So I think just a couple of comments. First, I want to thank the project really for giving this space to us to discuss this. Really appreciate the data, the transparency, the issues, the whole experience that you are sharing with us. I mean, coming from a wave 6 county, this is comforting for us to hear, right? And I think for the counties who are sharing their lessons learned, their experience, I really appreciate hearing from you all the strategy that you've shared with us. I think it started even with Placer, Contra Costa, and now also hearing from Orange County. I really like it. There's so many learnings I've actually captured throughout these meetings. hearing from the other counties. And I just want to say thank you. And it's also two things that really resonated with me in hearing the 3 waves of counties is the ease of using the, what you call this, the functionality for staff. So for me, that is really a big plus, you know, and I've always told my staff when we go into these meetings, you know, that's one of the things I hear a lot, and also the support. So just those 2 things paired together, I think for me, it's like, you know, it makes us feel like comfortable going in. Of course, we're the last wave, so we expect a lot of the problems to be taken care of. So, but thank you.
Anna, thank you for that. And as you can see, I think the whole implementation model is partnership and surrounding the implementing counties. And it's a commercial moment, but counties helping counties are so valuable. And we count on that with each one of the waves of having people on site that use the system every day from other counties in the counties, as well as in our virtual support and our project team providing that expertise. So again, always I've been in meetings with our Wave 4 counties this week, and it's pay it forward, pay it forward, pay it forward. And, you know, both Eduardo and Anna are here going, yep, pay it forward. We're here at the end of the line, pay it forward, please. But that is so valuable when you're sitting there in a lobby or something else like that, and you have somebody that works lobby traffic, and they have somebody there that does that from another county or has experienced that. So very, very good stuff.
Okay, thank you. Are there any additional comments or questions from the PSC? Seeing none, I'll open it up. Are there any questions or comments from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and we'll move on to our next item, Wave 2 retrospectives.
Thanks, Winna. And yes, we're going back to Wave 2 because during that implementation, we definitely needed to look back. And so, you know, in a not too long from now, you're going to be looking at Wave 3 retrospectives. So Gretchen, can you kick things off and provide an overview of what we learned from Wave 2 through the retrospectives?
Absolutely. Good morning. Just do a quick sound check. You're able to hear me, John? Perfect.
You're good.
Thank you so much. Well, and I can't help but echo the sentiments. I love that our topic is following both in JPA and PSC, the information sharing that's happening across the counties. It's absolutely inspirational to see the collaboration and partnership, not only within counties, but across counties as we work together to support smooth transition. So for this morning, I'm Gretchen Williams with the ClearBest QA team. And my fellow presenter and I are really happy to join you all to share some context around the retrospectives. The CalSAWS retrospective, as the facilitator, I'll start by sharing a bit of context on the migration retros that we do internally. And then each of the presenters that'll be joining me will provide a bit more context and detail on specific topical areas. As John had mentioned, for today's update, we'll focus specifically on Wave 2 observations and then action taken to continuously improve the migration experience for counties in subsequent waves. So the approach taken by the project to reflect on the lessons learned truly is multifaceted. Upon conclusion of each wave, sessions are conducted with internal project teams to discuss observations and identify potential enhancement opportunities. Sessions are also conducted directly within each participating county to gain insight on their migration experience. And then moving forward, we're also incorporating a stakeholder session, which will focus specifically on the public-facing aspects of the CalSAWS migration. So if we can move to the next slide, please. The retrospectives consist of guided discussions where teams take the time to pause and reflect on what worked, share observations and potential opportunities for improvement, and then it concludes with brainstorming on recommended action. So based on the complexity of the action identified, teams may be applying real-time adjustments within that current wave. So as we're talking through Wave 2 today, some of the Wave 2 counties may have experienced that real time. Or there may be activity that's a bit broader in scope that the team will be initiating actively on adjustments that will benefit future county waves. So we've included a list of internal project sessions conducted here at the bottom of the slide. This is simply to demonstrate the diversity of topics that are covered and the commitment that the project has to addressing all facets of the migration activities. As I mentioned, presenters will be joining me in just a moment to go further into details on these topics. So let's move to the next slide. So there's a significant amount of content that comes out of each session, which enables the teams to action on adjustments, both internal, such as cross-team communication or process improvements, and changes that are more external facing, which will directly benefit participating counties. The information that we're going to share today will be rolled up to more of a higher level overview with a specific focus on action taken that results in benefit to the counties. Each presenter will focus first on the themes that were identified in their sessions around improvement opportunities, and then provide a recap of the actions that were taken as a result of what we've learned. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our first presenter, Catherine Van Diemen, to kick us off with OCM training and implementation. So over to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Gretchen. All right, so the first retrospective we wanted to highlight this morning is specific to the ISS work streams, the organizational change management, training, and implementation areas of the project. We'll cover the themes and then we'll go into some of those specific highlights that we modified, changed, and that are implemented for our subsequent waves. From a theme perspective, there were consistent themes throughout all of the different retros that we conducted, specifically around communications with and to the counties, as well as making sure that we are providing relevant and pertinent information to the counties to enhance their preparedness as they got closer to migration. So a few things regarding communication. The first is to continue to strengthen those communications by keeping the audience and the various user group in mind for documentation, inclusive of the county readiness surveys, the action steps, for training specifically to ensure that the counties had the latest updates regarding any type of information impacting the users or the staff availability for the LMS, as well as some of those helpful hint and startup steps to access and complete the WBTs and the ILTs. For implementation regarding communications, we provided more frequent updates that are flexible and empower the counties to have a front row seat to align resources for their post-implementation support migration. Regarding the other theme, which was all about information sharing, a few of our themes that we learned and from the lessons learned is that we are deploying OCM resources from the project in the counties post go live to collaborate with the Change Network champions, as well as county leadership for meaningful interactions. For post implementation, also we learned that we strengthen the transparency of any of the unforeseen changes to the post implementation support and resource alignment. If we could proceed to the next slide, we'll talk specifically about some of the changes that the subsequent waves will see for OCM and training first. For OCM team, they are working with the counties to strengthen what they refer to as the OCM county profile, which are now aligned with the post-implementation efforts and also shared with the on-site support teams. The OCM team is also supporting counties post-go live with sound bites, photos, and other honorable mentions and highlights. From a training perspective, they continue to seek avenues to provide better county experiences with the LMS, as well as provide information related to the LMS as far in advance as possible. So this also is about continuing to break down those silos and work across all of our work streams so that the county has one experience as opposed to different ones based on work stream. For some of those processes, the OCM team is enhancing the recommendations and action steps from the readiness surveys that are applicable to the counties. So it's not a one size fits all, and we all realize that the counties have their unique culture, and the readiness surveys and the results will reflect that. For communications, there's definitely more cross collaboration across all of the various teams. OCM continues to refine their messaging and their value proposition for the CDGs, as well as sharing collectively. And the training team is also participating in more forums, not just your training advisory council, but other related meetings with the CNCs, as well as post-implementation support. We are really focused on all of our ISS work streams dedicated to cross collaboration from the staff and the user group perspective. On the next slide, if we could move forward, we'll highlight the implementation actions that we are taking. For implementation under the tools, we've added what we refer to as pre-meets with the county leadership, as well as with their help desk teams and our virtual support coordinators. We provide tips and tricks, as well as introduce the teams for the virtual platforms. This is really important from a pre-go live readiness to make sure that the county understands who is supporting them virtually and when they can share what information. We're also looking at making sure from a tool perspective that the Wi-Fi connectivity, as well as more information, is also included in the CalSUS trip books. The CalSUS trip books are provided in advance of each of the go lives, providing relevant information regarding each of the offices that the counties have supporting for on-site support. We've also enhanced our processes to quickly address any rising deployment or resource alignment needs that the counties are the ones to initiate those changes. We also include the county-specific escalation processes. And as you heard Tim from Orange County earlier speak to, we include those escalation processes in our orientation sessions, again, in advance of go live, to better prepare on-site support to provide the level of care and customer service for the counties. For communications, in addition to what we've already discussed, we also created avenues for enhanced traceability for the county checklist. So this is another pre-implementation activity. We've provided more information through the TOS teams regarding what has changed, why did it change, and when did it change. And now I'll turn it over to Danielle Benoit, who will lead the discussion for the contact center, imaging, and lobby management.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this next retro, we're focusing on contact center, imaging, and lobby management. Similar to what you saw with OCM and implementation, we've gone through and found additional areas that we can focus on that we've assessed already with wave 3, and we'll continue for the wave 4, 5, and 6. So that focus is really around information sharing, county support resources, and county preparedness. So really readiness for the transition for contact center, imaging, and lobby. These are big items, and we really wanted to make sure that we can focus on support. That's both pre-implementation support as well as post, and getting people ready for the transition and being able to have our resources allocated where they fit best, our specialized project staff, to make sure that they're there to help in your big scanning areas, in your contact center directly, and be able to move them around as needed for the different county needs. Other things that we've done is added more meetings and prep to make sure that counties are getting the information they need to be prepared for the transition. So if we transfer to the next slide. So really the focus here with contact center are additional tools. We heard everybody loud and clear in the first waves around model office. We've made a lot of adjustments to the model office process, including focusing on prep activities, adding more prep activities to help with script creation. We've also added an on-site prep day prior to your model office to make sure connectivity's there. We can walk through any script developments, answer any questions, and really provide some on-site demonstrations to get you ready for model office. In addition to that, we've had some creations of some model office checklists, more tools available on the web portal to help with that process, and of course, both demos through the model office process and making sure that we can do any on-site training post-implementation as needed to help assist counties. For imaging, we've taken a similar approach. More information, more communication is always good. We have scheduled with all our upcoming waves additional sessions to not only work through training, so additional demos on some of the hot topic parts of imaging, but also to look at your business processes and make sure that what you discussed in your BPRs is fresh and foremost in the front of your minds, and you can make any adjustments for imaging. We will also continue doing post-go live imaging training sessions on site, which we have found to be very successful, as well as I said, those pre-go lives. And for lobby management, the focus here is really making sure that we understand the processes around both the county purchase process for those of you getting devices, as well as what the existing functionality is in the core. So making sure that you understand how the reception log works and how it ties into different areas. So those have really been our focus, and we continue to make changes and adapt as we get lessons learned from all of our counties, as well as future retros. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Mike.
Thanks, Danielle. I'll be covering, this is Mike Tambakian, and I'll be covering the county data validation and the conversion retrospective. So the common themes that we saw from the retro sessions are to reducing the cutover timeline, increasing the communication, the county click-through duration, and the county support and resources. Taking this feedback, we made some adjustments to improve future waves. Next slide, please. So for CDV, we added a body of knowledge. We created a CDV reference guide, and we incorporated a Q&A session for CDV. We also produced the CalSAWS to CalWIN mapping document, and we added additional materials to the CDV kickoff session where we cover the CDV processes and kind of give the concept of what is expected. We also started to share go live materials with future wave counties. For conversion, we have made the following adjustments. We are working on a proof of concept with Golden Gate to help reduce the overall conversion timeline. The county click-through approach was adjusted to refine to maximize the allotted time for our participants. And we refined the communication for click-through participants to clearly communicate what is expected during the activity. We appreciate the feedback and will work continually to improve our processes. Over to you, Rachel.
Rachel, you out there?
I am having trouble getting off the mute today. Apologies for that. So I wanted to give a little bit of an update about what we saw for opportunities relative to Benefits Cal, and they fall into two categories. One is making sure that there is sufficient information in the form of resources available so that there's awareness of Benefits Cal capabilities and feature sets. The second is making sure that we have given the counties information that they need to prepare themselves for people that are coming into the office and those that actually may be engaging with them through alternative access channels. So if we go to the next slide, I want to dive into these a little bit deeper. There's a couple of areas on processes that we looked at. One is that in looking at the lobbies, there's an opportunity to increase the promotion of using Benefits Cal. And that's for applications. That's if somebody was coming in to potentially drop off a document, if they were coming into the office to report a change, to replace a BIC card or an EBT card. So the first was really making sure that we in the future need to arm folks and make sure that there is awareness of all of the capabilities that exist within Benefits Cal. And that's also by having folks in the lobbies that can help out that are intimately familiar with Benefits Cal as well. So that's future wave change that we're going to be doing. We did this with wave 3 and we'll be carrying that forward into wave 4 and 5 and 6 moving forward. The second is that on the call centers, that when people are in the queue waiting to speak with someone, to make sure that the language that is in the recording references additional ways that people could make updates, apply, or access information about their case. So there's a suggestion to update the call center recordings to reference and promote Benefits Cal. And then the last item, and we've actually completed this one already, is included a FAQ sheet and a fact sheet that went out to the counties to highlight specific functions that people could end up using to help with navigating people to additional channels where they might be able to self-serve. Okay, that is the end of the Benefits Cal retrospective. I am going to turn it back over, I believe, to John.
Gretchen, anything else from your perspective that you need to share?
No, I think the presenters have done a great job of recapping all of the sessions and the lessons learned and action taken. So thank you, John.
And thank you, Gretchen, and to the folks that went through that. That's just becoming part of our project DNA, is always looking back. As mentioned, Gretchen put right up in the front slide, we are going to be doing that also with our stakeholders going forward as we go forward and doing that in the session with stakeholders that will be incorporated. Winna, with that, I think I'm turning it back over to you to see if there's PSC comments and then public comment.
Thank you, John. Are there any questions or comments from the PSC? Marcella?
Hi, good morning. I just had a quick comment about the Benefits Cal support to clients and lobbies. Do you have a target date for implementation on this kind of project, or is this just going to start immediately?
The support.
Marcella,
Yeah, go ahead, John.
I said, Marcella, that this is, when we look back, the support is ongoing. We're building up the resources and talking with counties to do that with Wave 3, and with Wave 4, it will be very urgent and focused that this is put on county checklists and things like that. So it's there. So I think counties are aware of this. This was an awareness, and our implementation teams will be working with the counties to be more diligent about that as they go forward. And the Benefits Cal team has already provided marking materials and information to the counties to be able to utilize. Did you want to share anything else, Rachel?
No, I was just going to say, I think Marcella was also asking about getting out in the lobby. So for waves 4, 5, and 6, we will have members of the Benefits Cal team that will be out in the lobbies that can help support that. So we're going to be roaming across the waves to help them out with their lobby and getting things, accelerated and running smoothly within the lobbies.
Okay, is there any talk about using kiosks? Because I know another county mentioned they have that available in their county. And I'm from LA County, so I believe in some district offices, they had some pilot programs going on with kiosks, but never something that, at least not that I understand, that it went across the board to all district offices to have maybe some kiosk support to clients and lobbies. So is that something that you all are exploring?
Yes, that is something that is available to counties for them to be able to purchase and roll into their process. And we know that counties have used a variety of devices, from kiosks to tablets and things like that. So we are working with them. And I think the other great thing about Benefits Cal is somebody can do that right from their phone, whether that be a staff member or whether it be a potential applicant to be able to do that. But yes, kiosks are part of the implementation, and those are optional parts of the implementation that the county can choose.
Oh, optional. I was going to say awesome. I really was hoping that it could be across the board to everyone, because I know that would be a lot of support for clients who walk in. But I think the optional part is what makes it a little difficult, because a lot of times, they just don't become something that happens in our county. So I would hope that they could really consider it for this in particular, because a lot of clients do need the extra support with Benefits Cal.
Okay, thank you, Marcella.
Thank you so much for the comment.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments from the PSC?
Okay, you're back right now?
Seeing none, we'll open it up to questions or comments from the public. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and we'll move on to our next item.
Thanks, Winna. And now it's starting to look forward as well. As we look back, we are always looking forward. But let's get into waves 4 through 6 and our risks and our readiness. All right, Catherine, back to you.
Perfect. Thanks, John. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and transition to forward thinking for waves 4 through 6. First, we're going to tackle our project readiness. So this is on the CalSAWS project team side. And the largest update from our prior month is that we have now included wave 6. So this is the first month that we're also reporting on wave 6 as from the project as well as the counties. So a couple of highlights, first and foremost for wave 4. Interface partner testing that falls under the integration is both complete for both the county testing as well as the state interface partner testing. A few other updates, online performance testing is targeted. It will begin next week and it will continue through the middle of June. Training preparedness and logistics, so this is all of the classroom setup for end user training is completed. Change discussion guides are also completed and those activities have concluded. Configuration has also been concluded and process sim is in progress and will conclude and it will complete all of those activities by May 26th. One of the largest milestones for the wave 4 counties in the past week and a half is the green light for county prep. The counties began the county prep activities earlier this week on Monday, the office hours, as well as the daily debriefs. We are on day 4. So congratulations to all of the wave 4 counties. From a wave 5 perspective, there's a lot of activities right now ramping up. Networking activities continue. Change discussion guides under organizational readiness are complete. Post-implementation activities continue, as well as the wave 5 county profiles have been drafted and reviewed with the counties. For wave 6, we're just getting started in terms of a lot of our activities. From the application perspective, imaging, contact center, central print, those are ongoing. There are major milestones over the next 30 to 45 days, and we'll continue to keep the group updated. Integration from a IPT perspective will start next month. However, we will cover a few of the activities on the county development side on the next slide. Technical, like I mentioned, county network connectivity continues. There are no barriers at this point. And implementation activities, including the profiles. We just met with SLO yesterday regarding the pre-planning for all of our post-implementation support. All of those activities continue to move forward with no major milestones or blockers from a roadblock. On the next slide, if we can proceed one slide, we'll go ahead and we'll cover from a county activities perspective. So wave 4 continues to move forward. There are no major blockers or watch items at this time. For wave 5, just a couple of things to note. We have 2 watch items, both under the integration. These are specific to the county development for their interface partner testing. Interface partner testing has started with the project, and that began yesterday, the 17th of May. Fresno is working to address a few items with their SFTP with the IPT team, but again, those continue to be worked through. For Sonoma County, there are 3 interfaces that are on track to be completed by June 6th. And with Alameda, we still are tracking and working with the county as they have 2 interfaces that will be completed from a development perspective in the June timeframe, which will be on schedule. However, IPT with the project is scheduled to occur through July 7th. So we will be tracking those on a month-to-month basis. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Leslie or Arnold to talk through the cutover 4B.
Leslie, you can take it.
Good morning, everyone. So as Catherine gave us a look at the readiness, let's talk about the wave 4 cutover. So for wave 4 being a little bit larger than what we had with wave 3, when it comes to a data volume perspective, that impacts the cutover window. We are in the middle of doing a proof of concept to validate our implementation of Golden Gate. Golden Gate is a database tool that allows us to take the converted data real time as we're creating it and replicate it over into the production systems. What this will do is reduce the overall window, as we don't have to wait for all of conversion to be done before we start putting that data into production. With the Golden Gate solution, we anticipate that it could save us around about 6 hours in our cutover window. With the mock cutover timings that we saw with wave 4, given the data volume, we were looking at a 90-hour window. So those two together, we're anticipating the traditional 84 hours for wave 4. Wave 4 will stay with the standard 3 hours for county click-through to allow those counties to click through and validate that their cases came over successfully. Additionally, we will always be continuing to improve our performance of the cutover with tuning our conversion processes and automating some additional of the database administrative tasks that happen after the data is converted. The final wave 4 cutover window is targeted to be communicated out to the counties by the end of this month, May 31st. Moving on to the next slide, let's talk about wave 5 and 6. So with wave 5, we are estimating that the data volume that we receive from Gainwell will be 22% larger than what we saw for wave 3. With wave 6, those counties are coming in where they are showing about a 14% less on the data volume than what we saw with wave 3. We have no concerns at this time that wave 6 can meet and will meet the 84-hour window given that data growth. We will confirm those timings for wave 6 during the mock cutover to finalize what are looking like. Additionally, the wave 5 mock cutovers are scheduled in early June, and we'll be using that Golden Gate solution so we can finalize what the cutover window would look like for wave 5. Our plans and next steps is to continue to monitor this risk and communicate out after wave 5 mock cutover completes what our baseline cutover timing looks like, and that would be by the end of June. And for wave 6, that mock cutover to set that baseline timing to communicate that by the end of September. I'm on to hand off to Rachel and Arnold to review the rest of the risks.
Thank you, Leslie. Rachel, I'll go ahead and let you start with 262.
Perfect. So for 262, we are using this to be able to make sure that the counties are fully prepared. This is largely attributed to the work plan content and information that's contained in it, as well as the readiness checklist. For wave 4, we are in a green status. For waves 5 and 6, we have kept this in an amber status, pending confirmation from the wave counties that they are confident that we could move it to a green status. That request is currently going out right now through the regional managers to ask for feedback from the wave 5 counties to determine whether or not we are in a position now to move this to green. Arnold?
All right. 264 is in regards to the imaging and migration readiness activities that each of the counties are doing. So for wave 4 and 5, all of the counties are on track. For wave 6, we just have a watch item because there are some counties that are falling a little behind the original schedule. And so we are working with them to revise those schedules and stay on track. And so that this is just an early watch item as we continue to keep everything on track there. Moving to 269, Calhoun counties may not have enough development and testing time to refactor their ad hoc reports and ancillary systems. So this is an amber that we're tracking for waves 4 through 6. And just as we did with the previous waves, we are working with those counties to work through the additional operational report needs that they have and map those to what it currently exists within CalSAWS. And then if there's any gaps with that, working with the counties on prioritizing those that need to be done prior to the cutover or those that can wait till after cutover. And then the counties do have an option to pursue additional assistance with covering that county gap with doing additional Gainwell assistance. Moving on to 281, changes to the San Diego POP site. So San Diego County is going to be moving their data center after their initial cutover in July. So we are keeping this as an amber to validate that with that new data center, the network connections and all the necessary changes are made to ensure that they can still access CalSAWS after that move is complete. So we are just keeping this as an amber watch item as we work with San Diego County on scheduling that next round of testing. If you look at 283 and 288, this has to do with circuit deliveries, so network connections into Fresno and San Francisco. These are low because there's already one circuit that has been implemented, and we are just tracking delivery, implementation, and testing of this second circuits. Right now, because we always go live with 2 circuits to provide redundancy for the counties. So this is again a low risk watch item. Rachel, I'll hand over 289 to you.
Yeah, thanks, Arnold. On 289, this is a new risk that we have added. And what it's intended to do is to track the county's readiness of moving from CalWIN Lite to the new solutions. In CalWIN Lite, there were a number of capabilities that were given to other users other than county users that are now contained across multiple systems. So they are contained within CalSAWS, within Benefits Cal, and also the child care portal, depending on the specific user. So what this risk is tracking is making sure that we're working with the counties to make sure that that transition of users to the different systems is ready for the counties at their go live. And that right now is in a green status, but we are going to be tracking this as we move throughout the readiness with the counties. Arnold?
All right, now we'll move into the project readiness for CalWIN cutover to CalSAWS. And so start off with 258, and Leslie spent the time talking through the wave 4 and wave 5 timings. So those will remain as a high red risk until we have confirmation on those final timings. For wave 4, it's coming up at the end of this month. And then for wave 5, it'll be the end of June. And then as Leslie had talked about for wave 6, we believe that we will be within the 84-hour window. So we have degraded that to a low risk for monitoring and confirmation. Rachel, you want to take 285?
Yes, so 285 is used to track the county's readiness for making sure that their transition from post-go live support at the end of the 60 days is smooth, that the counties are ready to take over support on their own once the post-implementation support period concludes. So for wave 4, we are currently in a green status for waves 5 and 6, and Catherine had mentioned this. We are going through a series of meetings with the counties on looking at their profiles, making sure that their procedures are defined correctly, including their escalation procedures, and that they have a plan in place to make sure that once that 60 days is concluded, that the counties can take over. So right now we're in an amber status for waves 5 and 6, but we'll be working with the counties to get those back to a green. Arnold?
All right, for 279, this risk is associated with the CalWIN counties preparing to reconcile fiscal and submit state reports timely as they migrate to CalSAWS. And again, as with what we did with the earlier waves for waves 4 through 6, 2 weeks prior to their actual cutover date and 6 weeks post their cutover date, we are conducting project meetings to walk through the CalSAWS reports and how to handle the hybrid close that they typically encounter during their during that first month when there's split activity between CalWIN and CalSAWS, and then the second month when it's 100% on CalSAWS. In addition, there are meetings occurring every 2 weeks with the production counties, which allow them to have the opportunity to answer questions or ask questions regarding the state reports, and those are ongoing. So after that 2 weeks before and 6 weeks after, they will transition and be able to participate in the post-production fiscal and state reporting meeting series. Moving on to the last issue or last risk on this page is around the go live dependent defects. We're remaining amber across all the waves. We did see a significant improvement between wave 2 and wave 3 with the defects and the impacts that the counties felt. And we will continue to see that improvement as we prioritize those impacts or those defects that have the highest impact to the county productivity to be addressed with the go live. So we are making changes to the conversion logic to address it, as well as we're running database changes prior to the county click through on the go live events so that the county workers do not encounter those defects. For any defects that are open after the go live, they are included in the go live packet with the alternative procedures, and that go live packet is made prior to or made available prior to the go live. If we move on to the next slide. Continuing on, we have CalSAW scalability and system performance. So risk 237 is the scaling of batch for 58 counties. And so this is, again, we're leaving it in a green risk, as this is more of a monitoring, as there have been numerous improvements made to the CalSAW's batch process, and we are continuing to monitor it. We have run it at 58 county volumes, and it is showing to be performant for both online and batch within the SLA. So we will continue to keep this as a green risk as we monitor and continue the testing and tuning. Risk 284 is in regards to the CalSAW's Contact Center Enhanced Call Control Panel. And this is in preparation for the Los Angeles live on Contact Center in November. We are going to be executing another performance test at the LA County volumes to validate system performance. That performance test has been completed for all the other counties for waves 1 through 6, and the system has proven to be stable. Risk 240 is the scaling of CalSAW's production operations, including batch operations to provide 58 county support. Without effectively taking into account the multi-county and multi-vendor CalSAW's ecosystem and the associated impact that might have on business operations. And so with all these waves, we have a checklist that we are executing and completing prior to the go live to make sure that the counties are being included in the production operations and communications that come out of it, that the process for the sending and receipt of files as we exchange it through between CalSAWs and the counties, for the process for reporting defects and addressing enhancement requests. All of that process is put in place and communicated and documented with the county prior to go live so that there is a smooth transition onto the CalSAWs program and the batch support. And then that brings me last to risk 256, which again is a risk that we're leaving open for monitoring purposes around imaging scalability and performance. We have executed performance tests and on the imaging solution, which has passed. It has been proven to be stable. We have another round of performance tests that we are executing as well for the future waves. And again, we'll just leave this open for monitoring as we go through the final waves. So that brings us to the close. Winna, I can return it back to you for any questions.
All right, thank you. Hi, are there any questions from the PSC? I see your hand, Sandra.
Hi, for risk 258, where it discusses the potential for wave 4 and wave 5, the cutover window. I know you mentioned there was a mention of the Golden Gate process that is being looked at to potentially reduce the 90 hours to 84 hours. How soon will we know if this actually is going to be helpful? Just because that, so I think wave 4 is for July, right? And it may actually hit that holiday week where we have less days of work hours. So do we know when we'll know for a fact if this works for us?
Yes, we are running 2 tests. One is executing even as we speak. Another one's executing next week, and we will have those timings finalized by the end of May for the wave 4.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Any additional questions from PSC? All right, seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to our next item. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to kick us off, and owner is going to join me for an update. At the board meeting the previous month, we had provided an update on a going forward set of campaigns that are being explored for Benefits Cal related to marketing. And there was a request to come back and just provide an update around what our previous campaigns have been and what the outcomes of those previous campaigns have been. So I wanted to bring in owner to share who has been involved in those campaigns. We'll talk a little bit about what they are, and then I'll summarize a little bit with what we actually saw in terms of outcomes.
Thank you, Rachel. As Rachel mentioned, we took the action item in the previous public meeting and to share the updates, key up and success metrics around the communications and the marketing campaigns we did last year. And the core objective of these marketing campaigns were around simplifying access to the services for the customers and through the increased adoption and usage of Benefits Cal. Also increasing the awareness for customers for the features available online for them and the tools, which would also improve operational efficiencies in the downstream and resulting in increased customer satisfaction. With keeping that objective in mind, starting with that objective, we were working with the stakeholders, and there were 6 outreach campaigns defined by multiple stakeholder groups, including the counties, CWDA, consortium, CDSS, DHCS, and our advocate partners. And we started working on those 6 campaigns last year. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So on this slide, you see the list of the campaigns, what the campaigns are, what are the call to actions and the audience and the dates that we kicked off the campaign. So essentially what you see here is, in summary, the campaigns including reaching out to customers, for example, which has an incomplete application. They started an application, never completed. And the objective of the campaign was encouraging them to go online and complete that. So we identify these customers and send them communications around that. And similarly, nudging the customers to complete their renewals online and targeting them for the customers who is an upcoming renewal with or without a Benefits Cal account. Or we had identified so many customers who only use a paper channel, never link their existing case to use the dashboard features, or never check their unread messages in their accounts. So all these participants or the audience identified sent a unique message through the call to actions that you see on the slide during the month of September 8 and September 7 last year. And obviously each campaign had a specific guidance to encourage and to nudge the customers. And the next steps became, after sending that communication, tracking the click-through rates and the success metrics around that. And to talk about that, if we can move on to the next slide, and I will turn it over to Rachel for that.
Okay, thanks, Owner. And so the way that we look at our marketing campaigns, and Owner had mentioned that the campaigns were really focused on targeting specific individuals. So they weren't broad sweeping campaigns to increase awareness. It was really intended to target specific individuals at different stages of where they were in their application or case to be able to take an action. So if you look at our overall campaigns, we measure this in 2 aspects. We measure it in terms of how many people actually responded to the campaign through reading the message and clicking on the link that would then take them to Benefits Cal to perform a function. And then we also looked at what the outcome was in terms of what the impact, and those impacts were measured in things like the number of applications that were submitted as a result of the campaign about someone having an in-progress application. So if you look at industry standards is that less than 3% of people will click on an action that they are requested to do when they receive it. We had campaigns that exceeded that. We had some campaigns that were below that, but I would say on average, our campaigns actually resulted in a higher click-through rate overall than what we've seen from the industry standard. And the impacts are represented as well. In total, we had 139,000 plus unique actions that were taken as a result of the campaign. So I would say overall it was successful in terms of what was done. There's a couple of things I would say moving forward that we're looking at. This entire campaign was focused purely on email. In our next set of campaigns, we're going to look at alternative channels. In the board meeting that we had last week, there was a request that we also look at aligning with county marketing campaigns and then also campaigns that come out from CalSAWS, because we want to make sure that we're taking a person-based view, human-based view at the center to not inundate them with too many campaigns and text messages that are coming out. So those are two things that we're going to be looking at. We're also going to be looking at the language that we're using in the campaign to see if there's some language that might increase people's changes in behavior moving forward. Okay, owner, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir, so we can give an update quickly on where the demo/training environment is.
Sure. Thank you, Rachel. So in the previous public meeting, we had another action item regarding the benefits-called training environment, and the inquiry and the action item was primarily about whether the community-based organizations that are not doing direct assistance through the benefits-called can still access to the training environment or not. That was the question and the action item. Essentially, from the environment access standpoint, the benefits-called training environment will be accessible to the CBO users if the CBO is currently active user for benefits-called in production in the for-drug instance. So the intent of the training environment is providing users an environment that can be trained and get familiar with the functionalities. So if the CBO is not providing direct assistance through the benefits account, then the training would not be necessary in that case. But from the training access, environment access logistics standpoint, if the CBO user is an active user in production or for benefits account, they will be able to get access to the environment. So that's basically the response to the action item that we received in the previous meeting. If we can move on to the next slide. I think that was the last slide for this section.
All right. Are there any questions or comments from the PSC? Seeing none, are there any questions or comment from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item.
I think you're up, Arnold.
Yes, I am. So I'm very happy to report that if we take a look at the CalSAWS production highlights for the month of April, we have a lot of green. We did have an incident on Monday the 10th where our custom call control panel was unavailable on the contact center for 3 counties. We were able to, they were able to use the default control panel. And then the second incident was in the afternoon when the one-time password emails were not being able to be sent out to the users, which was impacting the ability to start new sessions. We do have the root cause identified for both of those items, and remedial actions have been taken, and we have not seen reoccurrence. So with that, Winna, I can return it back to you for questions.
That was very quick. Okay, are there any questions or comments from PSC? Seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the public? All right. right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and go on to our quarterly quality metrics and SLAs update.
All right, and this is our quarterly update that we bring back to the project steering committee as well as the JPA. And this is really tracking our quality metrics for our CalSAWS application releases. And the way that we calculate this is we look at the actual amount of hours that we spend on rework due to defects and compare that against the total number of hours that were included in the release. And then create the percentage for that. And so you can see that we have our trend here to where we continue to see very good quality and consistent quality through our 2209, 2211, and 2301 releases. The 2303 data will become available once we go live with the 2305 release, which is scheduled on May 28th. So that'll be included in the next quarterly update. If we move on to our next slide. This slide is telling us the fact that in our current contract, we have the ability to utilize our offshore delivery centers to help deliver the functionality within CalSAWS. And we're contracted to be able to achieve roughly 40% of that work being performed offshore. What we've seen is on the trend, if you look at the right-hand side of the chart around February, March, and April, we've been consistently around 26% of the work being delivered offshore and 74% or 75% delivered onshore. We will be seeing those ratios increase as we wrap up the work around the conversion work and some of the other project related and get into more of our M&E, M&O, and premise work on, structures as we go forward. If we move forward to the next slide. This is, we're reviewing our overall production defect backlog. So there's a lot of activity that's going on within the CalSAWS environment in regards to our major releases, our release when ready, our defect fixes, our conversion events. And we're very happy to report that if you look at this time frame of February 13th on the left-hand side of the chart through May 1st, we've been pretty consistent as to the number of defects. So even with that number of with all that change that's going on with the system, it's being done with high quality. And for those defects that are occurring, we are addressing them in a rapid response and in quick order, so that our aging is looking good and we're not seeing a buildup of queue and buildup of backlog. If we move on to the next slide. This is a snapshot of more of a contractual view of how CalSAWS is doing from a quality and defect and stability. And if we look at our production SLA metrics, we'll see that for the months of February, March, and April within the box there, there's a couple areas around performance requirement 5 and 6 on daily peak usage, hours availability, and prime business availability, where you see the red circles. And those are, unfortunately, for each of those months, we had a single event that caused those red circles to occur in both of those, or in all those cases. So in February, we had a challenge with our contact center to where we had 3 counties that went offline due to a network change. And so that occurred between 10:40 and 2:50 p.m. And so as a result, we had that impact to the contact center. In March, with the 2303 release, we had to do a restart and a rapid fix of the CalSAWS core system because we were seeing elongated response times. And so between 9:25 and 10 a.m., a 35-minute period, we had to take the system offline during prime hours in order to make that fix, in order to stop the impact that was happening there. And then in April, it was the OTP performance fallout that I talked about in the previous slide. So with all of these, we perform root cause analysis, And in order to identify how we can improve with all of our services that are available, whether it's the core CalSAWs, whether it is contact center, imaging, and look to increase the resiliency, because we know every minute is precious for the counties. And so our overall goal is to reduce that impact to the counties from an unscheduled downtime perspective. So with that, if we can move to the next slide, I have Sarah Rossmiller from Highland, who will take us through the Highland imaging SLAs.
Thank you, Arnold. So Highland has 3 service level agreement targets that we track each month with metrics tied to monetary credits if the targets are not reached. So today we're going to review the April results. So our first one for today is uptime, which is the availability of the system in the cloud, including the ability to retrieve and upload documents into the system. The monthly target is 99.9%, and for April, there was 100% availability of the system. Our second objective is the monthly page view objective, which states that the data center will provide viewing access to a 50 kilobyte page document or smaller in 2 seconds or less. The monthly target is 90%, and for April, 99.16% of page views that were 70 kilobytes or smaller took 2 seconds or less. If you're into numbers, we have actual numbers for you. So the actual number of page views for April was just over 9 billion. And of those, 77,000 took more than 2 seconds to process, which is how we arrived at the 99.16. And for the last one we have is the database transaction objective, which states that database transactions will be completed in 1 second or less. Our monthly target for that is 90%. And for April, we reached 99.97% of database transactions taking 1 second or less. More numbers for you. So in April, there were over 2.54 billion total number of queries. And of those, just over 822,000 took longer than 1 second, with an average of those long queries taking only 2 seconds. So that's what we have for you from Highland for SLAs.
And we'll transition to Rachel to go over Benefits Cal.
Perfect. So carrying with the theme of performance-related service level agreements, we have 3 for Benefits Cal. The first 2 are tied to what the customer will experience from what we call a daily online transaction. So these are instances where people are navigating throughout Benefits Cal. They're pulling up information that's contained within Benefits Cal. So we have a target response time of less than 2 seconds, 98% of the time. And our service level that we have achieved is that 99.92% of the transactions are responding sub 2 seconds for any of the interactions that people are having with Benefits Cal. If we move to the second service level agreement, this one is distinguished in that we're pulling information coming from external systems. And in this case, the external systems are coming from the EBT vendor is where the information is coming around from for the average response time. The second is information that's being pulled to populate the CBO dashboard. And we've got some CBO accounts that have extensive numbers of applications that have been submitted. So the response time here is sub 10 seconds, 98% of the time, given that dependency on pulling information from external sources. And we are running at 98.62% are running at sub 10 seconds. You'll see some fluctuations in the chart, and that chart is representative of information that's coming back and forth from some of those external systems. The third service level agreement is tied to our application programming interface. And so there are instances where we are sending information and requesting information back. And the response on that information that's going back and forth, we have a target of less than 2 seconds, 98% of the time. And that currently is running at 99.97% of transactions where we are requesting things from the external sources are sub 2 seconds. So with that, I am going to turn it back over to Winna. That concludes our performance metrics conversation.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the PSC? Sandra, I see your hand.
I just wanted to say, I do agree that the project is doing a really good job addressing all our issues, especially the major ones, pretty rapidly. So performance has been pretty good. But going back to slide 54, where we talked about the aging and backlog, I believe, is there a way for us to get a listing of what's sitting in backlog that still needs to be resolved?
Yes, Sandra, we can work with you on getting that listing for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, Arnold, probably the best way to do that is probably through the RMs where they can do a query through the JIRA tool and be able to give that. So that is available to the counties on that, and we will work through, Sandra, your RM to make sure that you have a specific item on that. I think the churn on those, that the ones that have been out there are really lower or cosmetic sort of back-end items or things that can take care of things in like one swoop as we do some patching and things like that. But we'll make sure that we get transparency to you all. And it's already available there through the JIRA tool, and your RMs can give that to you. So we'll make sure we have that coordination.
Thank you. I can reach out to our RM. Thank you.
Great.
Well, any other questions from PSC? Seeing none, are there any questions from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move to our procurement update.
So thanks, Winna. Our M&O procurement is moving along very nicely. We've got both cost, business for infrastructure and business for M&E evaluation teams working through the submissions. Everything looks on schedule, and contract start date of August 1st, 2024 looks good. We are also walking through what items need to be covered in confidential discussions and what items need to be in BAFO instructions. Next procurement is Benefits Cal re-procurement. This is when the Benefits Cal contract comes to a close, we need to procure M&O services going forward. And we're just thinking through the planning and developing the initial requirements, and then we'll involve our consortium stakeholder and state reviewers to review, comment, update, modify, whatever we need to do to get those requirements ready to go out in an RFP. And you see the further dates, and they transition in period in 2025 through 2026. Next procurement is the way we buy AWS services, and we are writing the contract that sits underneath this master intergovernmental cooperative purchasing agreement, modeling it on the state contract with general services and CDT. The target is to have that written and ready for submission for state review and then state and federal review, with a target date of late August with an effective date of September 1st. It needs to go through all those various approval processes, but the agencies have agreed to attempt to expedite them. Back to you, Mela.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from PSC? Seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the update on key QA activities.
This is Dan Dean, Project Manager for your Quality Assurance team, and I'll just put a summary on a number of topics that are covered. In short, the QA team works across all the various work streams on the project. So that's for Cal SAWS, Benefits Cal, Imaging, Call Center, Print Center, OCAT, and implementation support. For our first highlight here specific to 2305, you have heard about functionality for ROI being put on hold. And earlier, other teams covered a number of factors associated with that functionality. Our focus from a QA perspective is working with both Deloitte and Accenture on how that is implemented. For Benefits Cal, it's fairly straightforward. All of the functionality, 100% of for the 2305 release was focused on ROI. So it's as simple as not deploying that code. They do have a subsequent release in May for other functionality, so that will still come out as planned. For Cal SAWS, the good news here is it did not take code updates to put that functionality on hold. There is other functionality which will be released. It's able to be controlled through navigation steps. So by properly implementing the security processes we reviewed with Accenture, that functionality is on hold. And so confirming that approach as we speak for deployment this week. On a technical perspective, we've been through and confirmed all the SLAs that were presented that you saw today, including review of system logs. One thing worth mentioning on the right hand of this is there were 16 lobby management design reviews. Those are system enhancement requests. Do is go through and review those. It's highly configurable by county, so we review those prior to the SCRP reviews and implementation. So on the bottom here, from a migration perspective, primary thing I wanted to highlight is that for converted data validation wave 4, we had 80 county testers involved, about 20 more than any of the prior waves. Waves 1 through 3 had 2 to 3 counties. Wave 4 has 4 counties. We had more testers and we had less defects. Wave 1 through 3, going through all the triage process, we had about 60 defects that had to get triaged, discussed, and prioritized. Those waves, Wave 4 counts right at about 30. You heard about the Golden Gate effort. That POC is due to wrap up on May 31st. Waves 4 and 5 are bigger than Wave 3. You heard that Wave 3 had a window of 85 hours through the implementation of Golden Gate, as well as some code tuning that's going on, working with the teams to confirm that the 84-hour came met 5 and 6. Gretchen highlighted the retrospectives that were covered as part of Wave 2, which QA will continue to facilitate across all partners for future waves. Then from an implementation support perspective, the QA team also participates in on-site county support. We get about 5 staff involved in Wave 1 to 7 through Wave 3, 10 staff out there for the 2 period. That's my QA highlights. And back to you for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the PSC? Seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the public? All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the overview of the 2023 JPA membership meeting.
All right, June 29th is our membership meeting. So there isn't a specific PSC meeting for June. It's sort of combined with the membership meeting. This requires quorum of 58 county directors, our member representatives from our counties. So that's where we go through and have annual elections of our board members and our PSC members. We're going through coordinating with the various regions to create a slate for that agenda as we speak, so that we'll have a slate that's presented to the membership at that meeting. And it does require a 58 county vote on that. So I always appreciate people's patience as we go through our list of counties and be able to do that. It is our standard meeting. People can attend virtually with the right posting requirements. And I think that's what the majority will do, but we are also going to have in-person capabilities should people want to attend the meeting in person. Of course, as we go through that, it's going to be really important that we give a migration update where we're at. That night will be, well, the night, that night, because this meeting takes place on a Thursday, okay, will be the last day that Cal Win is up and available for our Wave 4 counties. So that night we will be going into a conversion weekend into the 4th of July. It's it's going to be important to give all of our counties an update on where we're at heading into that conversion weekend. And then coming live that 3rd of July before the 4th of July holiday and where we're at. So all of those things that we talked about today on Golden Gate, our proof of concept, hopefully we'll get all of that information out and you'll know what our expectations are. But we'll also give an update at that time on migration, where we're at. And then it's going to be focused on 2 waves that are last, wave 5 and 6, and where we're headed on that. It'll be a pretty robust benefits cal update. We always have our diversity, equity, inclusion updates at our membership meetings, where we're at on that. And we talked a little bit at PSC last month about some innovations that we're doing with the virtual assistants. And the team's going to give an update on where we're at on virtual assistants and chat bots and give some demonstrations and things like that. So again, it's a Thursday. We start at 8:30 in the morning. We should be done by noontime. And we're probably going to have a brief PSC meeting after that Jen's going to coordinate so that we can elect our co-chairs for the coming fiscal year for PSC. So as we head into the July PSC meeting, that we do have our chairs to be able to facilitate and coordinate. So I want to make sure that's on your calendars, that you guys are prepared for that. Appreciate working with the various regions to create a slate. And for those of you accepting nominations for the coming fiscal year and staying on board, definitely appreciate not only what you've done this year, but what you will do next year. Next year is a big year for us all. With that, Winna, I'll turn it back to you for comments and questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding the meeting John just mentioned from the PSC? Seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and go into the update on key state activities.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm Apurva Kandya. I will be providing you updates on the IVNB team. Starting from the first topic, CalSOS and Benefits Cal release, the overall readiness for release 2305 is going well. We are currently focusing to ensure that ROI functionality is disabled for both CalSOS and Benefits Cal, and regression tests are completed successfully. Coming to imaging, the CalSOS imaging solution continues to maintain stability for 48 counties, and we are looking forward to the 58 county performance test coming up very soon. Following is the batch, and on that, the batch processing has scaled and performed well with the expanded workload from additional counties. The team is continuing to work on enhancements to ensure that jobs are finished within the targeted 10-hour window. Coming to the next topic of conversion, in the last month, the IVNB team tracked 3B conversion, 4B mock conversion, right starting from the table reads to stage gate review meetings and the go-live assessment. Both of these events, 3B and 4B mock, completed successfully. And we also recently tracked the 3C, 4A conversion activities. There was an issue which resulted in postponing the 3C from the last week to this week. The IVNB team concurs with the conversion team that proper mitigation steps have been applied to prevent this issue from happening again. And we will be tracking the additional validation checkpoints which have been added in addition to the stage gate reviews. We are also continuing to track the Golden Gate POCs and the ongoing resolution of conversion defects, which are both progressing very well. Coming to the last topic, implementation readiness. Being the go-live month of April, our team tracked various implementation readiness activities for Wave 3. And we submitted the IVNB Wave 3 go-live readiness assessment report. And overall, we observed great coordination among teams and timely completion of activities, leading to a very successful go-live. This is the 4th week of post-implementation, And we are observing that things are going really good. There have been very quick resolutions on findings and defects being raised, and a very positive outlook being received from the RMs, from the counties who have gone live. So huge kudos to the teams who are supporting, and huge kudos to the counties who have just done a phenomenal job. With this, now our focus has shifted to waves 4 through 6 readiness, and we will continue to monitor the risks and the mitigation steps being followed for these future go-lives. At this point, the IVNB team does not have any major concerns to report. That completes my update.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from PSC? Seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into our state partner updates, starting with OSI.
Good morning. This is Steve Zaretsky with OSI. Really briefly, OSI, along with our IVNB team, continue to monitor the post-go live activities for the Wave 3 counties. Happy to hear that things are going pretty well there. We will also be monitoring the redo of Wave 3C this upcoming weekend. And we continue to monitor the preparation activities for upcoming Wave 4 go live, as well as the future waves. Nothing else to add at this time. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
So I don't see any questions from the PSC. Are there any questions from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to CDSS.
Good morning, this is Cecilia Roldan. Just want to echo OSI's comments as well. CDSS is also looking forward to continuing to work with CalSOS, the counties, and the advocates on the implementation of release of information. And also one note is to spread awareness that May is CalFresh Awareness Month. And that's it for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for CDSS from the PSC? Seeing none, are there any questions from the public for CDSS? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to DHCS.
Good morning, everyone. This is Katie Mead from DHCS. Just wanting to let everyone know, it was discussed a little bit earlier today, but letting everyone know that ACWDL 23-10, I'll go ahead and repeat that, ACWDL 23-10 was issued last Friday, May 12th. And this is the release of information in Benefits Cal for DHCS. Those were the only updates I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions from the PSC for DHCS? Seeing none, are there any questions from the public for DHCS? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and we will move into our regional updates, starting with Region 1.
Hello, everybody. This is Clarissa. I'm going to start off with a few Region 1 updates, and then I will hand it over to Anna. I will do the first half. For San Mateo County, we met with our TOS team for an on-site visit. We completed our configuration sessions, completed the cutover A click-through. We wrapped up county data validation, started end user instructor-led training. Very excited about that. We also started our process simulation. We began our marketing of CalSOS roadshows within each of our offices. And the CalSOS implementation team started county prep and began configuration of CalSOS production. Santa Cruz County, which is also a Wave 4 county, are actively engaged in county prep, configuring roles, positions, bank caseloads, automated actions, and all that good stuff. Their staff are in the second week of ILTs. Training is going well for them as well. Their help desk and staff development have been dedicated to offering support in all the ILTs. Program managers and analysts are developing plans and strategies for the upcoming increase in workload with the CalSOS conversion and PHE unwinding for Medi-Cal. They're developing their messaging for customers and county staff regarding Benefits Cal, and they're also working on post-implementation support for their 4 locations. Alameda County began their county configuration sessions, 5/17, that's yesterday, hybrid, both in person and virtual. They're also beginning their process simulation sessions, also yesterday, that's also virtual. Early training begins on May 30th for them, followed of course by Train the Trainer. And their end users are working on web-based training, completion of their web-based training. I'll turn it over to Anna for more Region 1 updates.
Thanks, Clarissa. So I'll cover the remaining for Region 1 updates. So I'll start with Santa Clara. So Santa Clara has hired a new SSA agency director. His name is Daniel Little. They also have a new eligibility class starting in June. And the assistant director, Margarita Hudson, is retiring in June. Now, for Solano County, they have completed the T-3 survey. They are doing the ILT for Train the Trainer, and early trainings are completed. The CDV activities are completed. Process simulation has started. They are configuring their the configuration verification sessions are also complete. County is also working on the prep phase for the model office, and they're working on refactoring their ad hoc reports. They have ongoing CalSOS road shows in their offices, and weekly office hours are ongoing to assist staff with questions and concerns. Their IPT testing is complete, and Wave 4A click-through complete, and they started reviewing their yellow banner case guides. And last but not the least, for my county, San Francisco, we have just started a new cohort of 44 eligibility workers. Then we are continuing to work on the PHE unwinding activities. We also started working with Gainwell on refactoring our county ad hoc reports. Then we sign off on the contact center, IVR call flow design, and web-based training began for our Train the Trainer and early adopter participants, and we are preparing for the change discussion prep session. And that's it, Lena, for Region.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions from PSC? Questions or comments from the public? All right, we will move on to Region 2.
Morning, this is for Region 2 updates. Mono County has a couple of disaster response updates. There are 2 FEMA disaster recovery centers set up in Mono County, one in Mammoth Lake and one in Bridgeport. They're also operating Disaster CalFresh this week, and they have staff available in their offices as well as co-locate at the FEMA disaster recovery centers for disaster CalFresh processing. They have flood alerts, apologies, coming in for the weekend, and we expect they will increase as spring runoff continues with melting historical snowpack. Mono County Social Services and Public Health has also combined under one department, and they're in the process of hiring integrated caseworkers 3. For Sutter County, they are currently working on unwinding activities and training. Currently have an eligibility training group of 8, and they are in the interview and hiring process for another eligibility training group to start. Tulum County continues to struggle with staffing issues. Unfortunately, they are currently down to 1/3 of their eligibility staff. They finished up with their Disaster CalFresh, ending up helping many more families than they initially had thought. They're gearing up to staff their 2 new county resiliency centers to help clients with any program questions or applications. And their building is in the final stages of flood repair, and staff are back in their own offices, and lunchroom is back open. And finally, Yolo County is bringing on a new induction class for 21 new Medi-Cal CalFresh PASs starting on May 24th, and recruiting to backfill an analyst position, and they're very excited about that. And that concludes Region 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the PSC? Questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll move to Region 3.
This is Rachel from Region 3. We do have some updates from some of our counties. Del Norte County is reporting they are continuing to struggle with the lack of staff, specifically in eligibility and their support staff functions. And they're still working through some issues that they've had with getting job postings listed. They are looking at ways to streamline the training processes so that they can move staff from the training unit into production units with a mentor in shorter time frames than previously. They are training their reception staff to assist with the screening responsibilities and continue to collaborate with the Sheriff's Office and Probation Department to make sure that they're following the CalAIM guidelines for the justice involved customers. Lake County is reporting that the program manager, Rachel Dillman, has promoted to their eligibility deputy director as of May 1st. The previous deputy director is retiring. Their new counter service and outreach unit that they had reported last month is doing well. The unit is also handling all of their CalAIM justice involved pre-release Medi-Cal, including the jail and prison applications, MCIEP, and the Medi-Cal suspensions and unsuspensions as part of their outreach duties. Then Lassen County is in the process of getting a kiosk in their lobby that will hopefully assist with timely case processing and ultimately enhance the practices to benefit their clients. They're also going to be purchasing new scanners for their department. Mendocino County, we have a new Medi-Cal program manager, Steve Gornez. We also are currently processing disaster CalFresh this week. Modoc County is continuing to focus on recruitment and retention of staff across their entire department. And then Siskiyou County, who had quite a few updates, is reporting that their staffing continues to be an issue. They're down 30% in their eligibility supervisors, 50% in their eligibility line staff, and then 30% also in the training and analysis unit. They are stating that in the last 2 months, they've had a complete update of staff in the deputy director, program manager, and supervisor positions, with the exception of just one eligibility supervisor. So quite a bit of change there. They are in the process of changing from task management into individual caseloads for continuing functions. They're also working on a lobby remodel expected to start this year. Last year, they moved the EBT BIC card pickup locations to the lobby, and the upcoming remodel is going to assist with reducing wait times for individuals and picking up those cards, and then help to streamline the lobby processes with the addition of new kiosks, and then the added benefit of increased security for staff and customers. And those are the updates for Region 3.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the PSC? Seeing none, any questions or comments from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to Region 4.
Good morning, everyone. Just a few updates from Region 4, starting with Kern County. They've been working with their Emergency Operations Center and have had staff at shelters throughout the county in response to the flooding. Also have been approved to issue disaster CalFresh as of April 2023, and have developed their processes and procedures to be in place for this effort. This has included updating their disaster CalFresh handbook and providing training for staff, as well as updating social media signage to implement in their county. Also in Kern County, they're very busy implementing both the unwinding for the continuous coverage requirement as well as CalAIM requirement for Medi-Cal cases. Training has been provided to staff in preparation of these changes. They've also reopened their Shafter office after the water damage, and all officers are preparing for the unwinding and full opening to the public. Staff continues to be a challenge, though they've worked closely with their managed care partners and CBOs to provide our staff as liaisons to respond to case updates or renewal processing as needed. Also in Kern, with the COVID restrictions have been relaxed, they've begun to hold job fests in various communities. This has been a successful tool in the past to encourage employment and self-sufficiency in our communities. Recently, they underwent an in-person ease review and are reviewing reports in CalSAWS and developing others to be utilized for improved case management. Also, they've been approved for ARPA funding and have been meeting to develop the items for purchase through this special funding. And last for Kern, they're preparing once again for the downtime that will be occurring due to the migration of Wave 3 counties, and look forward to the successful migration back in April. San Luis Obispo County, CalSAWS change discussion guide working sessions wrapped up and will begin reviewing the updated work product. Eligibility worker induction class concluded on March 17th with a new class starting the following week on the 20th. Their department wellness webpage was launched and includes topics such as emotional, physical, career, and intellectual health, leadership tools, and local and national resources for staff. And last for San Luis, countywide management academy kicked off provided by the Center for Organization Effectiveness. And that's it for Region 4.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments from the PSC? Seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the public? All right, moving right along, we'll go ahead and get the updates from Region 5.
Thank you. So for Region 5, I have an update here from Santa Barbara. They've successfully transitioned to CalSAWS, and they are on their learning journey and learning something new every day. For Ventura, we're in our 4th week. Santa Barbara is well on our post-implementation. And as I shared earlier, staff are showing their learning progress in all of their areas of the work. We'll also have a focus recently on our imaging workload. So that's causing us some extra time to just adjust to the differences, but we're working through that with support from the project. So thank you for that. San Diego is getting ready for go live in just 47 days. So that's fast approaching. And the team is diving into the county prep work and getting ready to go into CalSAWS. That's it for Region 5.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from PSC? Seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and go on to Region 6. Corey, would you like to start for DCFS?
Sure, thanks, Lena. So for child welfare, we've gone through the pretty much the final vetting for our new division manager for revenue enhancement. And so recently, Ayana, our regional manager for Region 6, and I had a chance to meet with her and start to onboard her to kind of get her up to date. Our hope is that she'll be able to join PSC in the next couple months. That's all I had.
All right, thank you. LaShonda, do you have updates from the program side?
No updates, thank you.
Okay, just really quickly, we do want to announce that our Chief Deputy Delfino Niera has retired, so the department is recruiting for a Chief Deputy. We also continue to prepare for the unwinding, and we are continuing to hire eligibility staff. So those are just some of the updates on the line side. And that concludes the updates for Region 6. Are there any questions or comments from PSC? Any questions or comments from the public? See none. John, do you have anything you want to add before we adjourn the meeting?
Well, let's give people, 43 minutes back in their day.
That's always
Oh, good, Winna. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a
Great
good
job.
rest of